again, coming back to the egalitarian thing, maybe I'll share one of my radical ideas here. I think it's stupid that society just expects men and women to run on the same timeline.
Yeah.
It's dumb. And it comes back to this egalitarian idea that we're just biologically identical and intellectually identical and all this stuff. And like, this is going to sound radical to some people because they're so fixed in just the way the status quo. But I think a lot of young women should seriously consider getting married and starting a family before pursuing higher education and pursuing employment and so on. Running on the same timeline as men is like, all right, I'm going to spend my 20s getting as much education as I can and then settling into my career and so on. And then I'll get into my 30s and I'll start thinking about marriage and family. Like I've had conversations with girls who are, let me not say girls, women, young women in their early 20s, and their life plan, their strategy is to get to 30 plus, sometimes I've heard them say even like 35, and then they'll start thinking about finding a guy to settle down with, starting a family, and so on. And my typical answer is, can I be just frankly honest with you? Just honest with you. I have no dog in this fight. Can I just be real with you? And that's a terrible idea. I think that's a horrible idea. If you were a 20-year-old man telling me this, I'd be like, yeah, fair enough. You know, I might say that maybe I think it's a little too rigid. You know what? If you're 28 and you find the amazing girl, whatever, like, cool, like, go get married. Why wouldn't you? But I'm like, you are setting yourself up most likely for failure and disappointment if you choose to do that, because our fertility windows are not the same. There is just a biological reality. Forget everything else. There's just a biological reality at play here where you're telling me you want to get married, you want to have children, you want to do all these things, and your plan is to wait until your mid-30s to then start looking for a guy. Are there women out there who have done that and they've managed to have it all? Yes, that does exist. I know some of them. Probability-wise, it's just not a good plan. And I think people are so uncomfortable to say that because, you know, people will be, oh, well, my sister, you know, my sister just got married at 38 and, you know, she just got...
Yeah, what about?
You know,
It's whataboutism is what it is. What about this? What happens if this happens? I get this from, like, obviously I deal mostly with guys, but like when I'm dealing with women, and I do have a few of them, they'll come to me and they'll say, well, Rollo, where are all the good guys? Where are the nice guys? You've heard this a million times, right? And I go, well, they're back in your 20s where you left them, basically, is where they are. But these are the women who have followed this life plan of, okay, like counter to what you were just saying, is they follow this life plan of, okay, I have to go to college. I have to get a degree in communications. I have to get a degree in, you know, human resources or psychology or whatever, you know, whatever the soft sciences are, or gender studies. And now I've got this. I've done either 4 or 8 years of college. Great. Now I'm an educated individual. Now I'm making some money, whether I'm working in the private sector or I put together the business or something like that. So I got my money. I got the bag. I got the education. I'm basically what women are doing is they're following the life plan of men in the 20th century because they thought that that's what empowered men.
Yes.
Well, women weren't allowed in colleges. Okay. Well, now you're allowed. Okay. But here's the thing is that's not what empowered men. Going to college isn't what empowered them. It was the fact that they were men and they were doing things. It was the act of doing stuff, right? It wasn't the fact that they all went to college. They all went to this. It's following that plan is not a guarantee of success. But what they've done is and this is not a Rollo Tomassi quote, this is a Gloria Steinem quote, which is they become the men that they wanted to marry. And so when they get to be 32, 33 years old and they go, Rollo, how come I can't find a quality guy? These guys ain't worth anything, right? And I'll go, well, here's the problem is like you need to, and we've come full circle. Like in the 70s, we told guys, you need to get in touch with your feminine side. You need to express your emotions. You need to feel more, right? That kind of stuff. You need to get in touch with your inner femininity, right? As if there's some sort of Jungian balance between male and female, right? Now we've come full circle. So what I tell them, I say, you need to get in touch with your inner femininity because you're a man. You're basically have become the men that you wanted to marry. And heterosexual guys don't want to marry another dude, right? And so what you've done is you thought that the path to empowerment was a masculine path of empowerment. So when women tell me, I'm an alpha female, I'm like, no, there's no such thing as an alpha female. There's alpha males. You are an alpha male with female body parts. You know, whatever. It's a family show. But that's basically you followed a masculine life plan and you're an alpha male. You're not an alpha female. An alpha female looks like a supermodel. She looks like the hottest girl that you could find on Instagram because that's in a female context instead of a male context. Male context is hierarchy, right? As I was saying, are you at the top of the hierarchy? Yes, I walk like the boss and I talk like the boss, I'm like, okay, well, you're the boss. You are a man. You're not well, how do I fix that, Rolo?
And they like to run with the idea that men are intimidated by it.
Yeah, okay, well,
it's not intimidation.
Everywhere along the way where women don't understand something about like the decisions that they make, there's a social convention that excuses that. So it's like, oh, men are infantile. Oh, men just want to get with the young chippies. They don't want to get with a real woman who knows who knows what she wants, and they're just intimidated by it or whatever it is. They're threatened. They're threatened by a strong woman, right? Yeah. It's like, no, they're not. They just don't want to get with you because you look and talk and act and behave, and your life plan has been a masculine life plan, and guys generally don't want the opposites attract, likes don't attract, right?
There's also the idea that like you've been saying all this time that you don't need them.
Oh yeah,
so,
yeah.
like,
you don't need me. I want them.
At some point, the men are like, okay,
well, you don't need me. Then I'll go get the chick that does need me. How's that? Like, and usually that's the 22-year-old, and I'm 37, right? So when women ask me this, they'll say, "What do I do?" I go, "You need to get in touch with your femininity. You need to feminize yourself more because that's when men want to get with women, right?" What are you saying? I need to dumb myself down? So femininity becomes equated with being dumb, right? Well, those dumb 23-year-olds that I used to be, all the guys that I want to get with them, and you mean I have to act dumb like those girls? She was dating guys
in her 30s when she was 23.
Exactly. And so, but they equate being dumb or playing dumb, I should say, with femininity, and that, by the way, that's by design. Okay, so when I forget it was Allie. There's this girl Allie who did this one video about how she defers to her husband, and how this is a long time. It was back in 2022. She did a TikTok video. It went viral, and she was saying something about how her employer is her husband, right? And because she's a stay-at-home mom, right?
I can already imagine the comments.
Yeah, and so she's talking about this, and she's like, "Yeah, I defer to his authority." Blah blah blah, and women lost their minds.
Oh my gosh!
And the reason why they lost their minds is because of what I call the existential fear for women, right? Which is, if I don't get the bag, if I don't have some sort of fail-safe, if I don't have some sort of insurance policy, that guy might run off with his secretary, or he might dump me and get a trophy bride, and then I'm just going to be destitute and homeless, right, if I don't do that. So there's this fear that is, and by the way, this has been going on really since the early mid-70s, right? Men are inherently untrustworthy. And the reason why is because we have popularized the concept of men being three archetypes. One is Homer Simpson, the dumb, doofy dad, like, Dr. Huxtable, right? Or Everybody Loves Raymond, or, think of the modern father,
sitcom dad,
ridiculous, dumb dad who needs mom to save him from himself because she's female and she has this magical ability, intelligence to know how to save him from himself. Then there is the borderline abuser, the Tinder swindler, right? The manipulative SOB, the guy who is who's if he's not abusing you and you're not going to a battered women's shelter, you're pretty close to it, right? But you can't get away from him because he's so sexy and he just sexes me up the way I like. I mean, he's the dark triad guy. Exactly. You can't get away from him because he's so sexy, but he's abusive or he's manipulative or he's a narcissist, which every man is right now. And then there's the guy, this is a more modern one, which really I attribute this to the millennials, which he's the incompetent guy. He's the guy who doesn't know how to change a tire. He's the guy who has to call the plumber. He's the guy who doesn't know how to tie a necktie. He's the guy who just simply doesn't know the basics kind of thing. So if those are the three archetypes that a woman has to choose from, what woman's going to choose from those things? They don't want that guy. They don't. So what do? They build a life plan around not needing a guy, certainly not any of those three archetypes. So how do I do that? I go to school. I get my own money. I become educated. And then when I'm 33, I'm wondering where are the guys who I did everything in my life to make me a high quality man as a woman. And I can't understand why men don't want to get with me right now. Well, because the things that make a man attractive, maximally attractive, like the things that a man has to do to make himself a high value guy, and I hate that term, but to make himself a attractive proposition, that you basically followed that life plan. But that's for a man.
Yeah.
That's not for a woman. And so then you get social conventions like that are popularized, like I don't need a man, but I want a man.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you've managed to cover protection, provisioning, and parental investment, and your money, and you don't need. You have an insurance policy. You don't have to worry about marrying a guy who's going to run off with his secretary. Okay, what's the man you want? Jason Momoa. Let's go watch Aquaman. Seriously, because that's all that's left is the hot, sexy guy. Because that's all women need them for once they've already taken care of all the things that they would have normally in the 20th century have needed them for when it comes to provisioning, protection, parental investment, money, all the value added prospects.
What I think is really difficult now is that there are many millions of young men and young women who are more, let's say, sane. They have a more traditionalist mindset and they want to actually do things more the 20th century way. And now, due to economic factors, due to that existential fear that you just talked about, there's the fear on the men's side and then there's the fear on the women's side. Like it's hard. I'm not going to not blame or knock any woman for wanting to not have to totally rely on a man or wanting to pursue an education.
By the way, I think women should have the right to vote. I think women should be able to go to college. I believe that women should be able to do whatever the hell it is that they want to do. But I also believe that they should be held accountable and responsible for the decisions that they make and the consequences of their actions, just like a man. If you're going to follow a masculine life plan, I would expect that from any man. And you want to have this equality, you believe in egalitarian equalism.
You kind of have to pick one.
Guess what? I have to suffer the consequences of my actions, with good or bad. You have to do the same. Yeah. So if you want the right to vote and if you want to be able to go to college, you own your own business and do all this great stuff, which I believe you should be able to do, all I expect you to do is bear the consequences like any guy would have to do themselves.
The point I was going to make is I think that what's hard is there are women who even outright recognize, like, they think feminism was a scam. They're like, but now the way the economy is and the wages and the job market and all these things, they're like, their choices have actually been decreased.
Yeah.